Thank you so much, Josh. It's such a treat to be here. And as Josh just mentioned, I'm Alison Cohen, or Allie, she, her, hers. And today I'm joining this session from Ohlone Land, which is also known as Berkeley, California. And it's just a gift to be settling into this kahila, this community with each of you. And so perhaps before I offer any more words, we can arrive together through pausing, through perhaps resting a hand under the belly button, inviting awareness to the lower half of your body, which is here, solid, grounded. And let's just take a few moments in quiet, letting gravity do its work. Continuing to bring this gentle, compassionate awareness to your embodied experience of being human as the body breathes itself. You might continue to rest a hand under the belly button, or just as you're listening, sensing into this body, this breath, feet connected to the earth beneath, your body making contact with whatever surface might be behind you or beneath you. Yesterday, here at the IJS Daily Sit, in her profound teaching, Cantor Kareth Shapiro used one of my favorite words, and it's an unusual word, suchness, Suchness, which she described as beingness, that we can learn to meet, honor, respect who we are now and what's here now in our experience, just as it is, as emotions of all kinds move through us. Emotions, energy in motion. So since yesterday, I've been reflecting on suchness. As Josh mentioned, I'm just coming off of co-teaching the second annual IJS Young Adult Meditation Retreat, Being with What Is. And I feel just profoundly moved by the experience of the past week. Sorry, I wasn't expecting this, but the sincerity, the love, the commitment, the kindness that everyone brought to our time together. Yeah, what a gift to be in spiritual community. And there were several themes that surfaced over the course of the week in community members' questions and shares. And one of those themes was what we often call in the meditation world, compare and despair. The sense that I should be more like someone else, that my own beingness, my own suchness is not enough, or perhaps is too much. And you might take a moment to just sense into how many hours, days, months of our lives have each of us spent comparing ourselves to others? Not in the sense of, I'm so inspired and I'm excited to try that too, but instead this sense of compare and despair. As the saying goes, we can be both a unique masterpiece and simultaneously a work in progress. So bringing awareness to the compare and despair mind or mind state is a portal for deep self-compassion, as well as for growing in wisdom. And one of my teachers, Gil Fronsdale, offers this helpful metaphor that I've returned to time and time again. As I share it, you might notice the imagery that arises in your own heart, body, mind. Look at a rose. Notice its suchness, how it appears in and of itself. Now let's also look at a dandelion. Now we can say something about the rose we couldn't say before. Now we can say that the rose is the large flower compared to the dandelion, which is the small flower. Okay, let's put down the dandelion and turn our attention towards a large sunflower. While nothing has changed for the rose itself, we can now say the rose is the small flower compared to the sunflower. Large and small are not inherent in the rose. Large and small reside on the comparison with other flowers. Freed of comparison, a flower is just itself. And Gill goes on to say, gaze directly at your own suchness. Much of the suffering you will have in life will arise from comparative thinking. In meditation, there is no need to compare yourself to others, to past experiences, to future imaginings. Residing in suchness, you will find the path to peace. Similarly, in the classic Jewish story that I've returned to time and time again, Reb Zuzia tells his students that when he dies, God will not ask him why he was not more like Moses. Instead, God will inquire, Zuzia, why were you not Zuzia? This is a teaching on suchness. Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt, who some of you may know as the Velveteen Rabbi, she offers that after facing brokenness on Tisha B'Av, now we open ourselves to healing, to comfort, to a balm for the wounded places as the days of awe approach. For many of us, and these are my words now, one of the most important acts of healing we can incline the heart towards is counteracting the tenderly human arising of compare and despair thinking. And one way of doing this is by gazing directly at our own suchness during meditation, moment by moment by moment, honoring that each of us has been designed, made to be different. B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of the one that was, is, will be. And so let us now, body, breath, heart, move into a lightly guided practice where we can gaze at our own suchness, where we can gaze at our own roseness that is neither the dandelion nor the sunflower. So you might find yourself shifting into whatever posture allows you to feel both this sense of dignity and wakefulness, and also some relaxation. I'll be offering some guidance throughout, and just a reminder that if at any point something arises in your practice that feels beyond your window of tolerance or your range of resilience, to just tend to yourself in whatever way feels self-compassionate, taking a sip of water, shaking things out, pausing the meditation. What we're learning to do here is go gently and with deep care. And so you might close your eyes or soften your gaze. Just welcoming yourself here. Hineni, here I am. Hinenu, here we are. This community of hearts, each of us on our own individual journeys, each of us choosing to contribute to this web of collective spiritual support. And it can be helpful at the beginning of a period of meditation practice to simply inwardly note to yourself, choosing to meditate. Choosing to meditate. And perhaps for a moment or longer, resting a hand on the heart and the belly, honoring this choice to carve out time and space to be in a way that only you can be. And you might bring attention to this moment's body, gently letting awareness dance down your body from the top of your head to your shoulders, all the way down your torso. Awareness sweeping down the lower half of the body. This body held in awareness, in its own suchness. This body breathing itself. And if awareness illuminates any places of tension or contraction, perhaps just letting them be, or giving them permission to soften a bit if that's available. Just resting in the experience of being you, right here, right now, just this. It's like this right now, being me. What if there's nothing or no one to compare yourself to? What if you're here to be wholeheartedly, imperfectly, beautifully you, ever evolving, moment to moment, day by day, but Selam Elohim. Continuing to sense body, breath, heart, settling into this suchness of being. So we'll sit together in quiet for the next few minutes, returning each of us in our own way, gazing directly at our own suchness, breath by breath, moment by moment, emotion by emotion. Large and small are not inherent in the rose. Large and small reside on the comparison with other flowers. Freed of comparison, a flower is just itself. Gaze directly at your own suchness. Much of the suffering you will have in life will arise from comparative thinking. In meditation, there is no need to compare yourself to others, past experiences, future imagining. Residing in suchness, you will find the path to peace. And so continuing to sense breath, body, heart, in this last minute or two of practice, you might just sense if you'd like to offer yourself a blessing of some kind, words of encouragement or gratitude, a hand on the heart or belly, sensing perhaps one way you can honor and tend to your own suchness. Thank you so much for your practice in your own time and at your own pace. We'll move into Mourner's Cottage.
Thank you so much, Alison. I hope everybody, if you can stay around for conversation and reflection in a couple of minutes, that's great. And if you can't, we'll wish you tzedchem l'shalom. Farewell. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time and channel. Right now, if you are reciting Mourner's Kaddish, if you're remembering a loved one and you want to include their name or names in the chat, you're welcome to do so. Thanks to Rachel for putting the text on the screen. And you are welcome also to unmute, and you can join me in reciting the Kaddish. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabba, Be'alma Divrach, V'tei V'yamlich Malchutei, V'chayechon V'chayei Adala B'zman Pariv V'yishmon Pariv Shmei Rabba Mevorach
Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam Olamim
Yitrach V'yishtabach V'yishtar V'yishmeler Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata v'shura v'neshama v'yamim amen. Hey Shlama Rama min Shemayim v'chaim aleinu v'aleichem olam amen. Shalom v'rama Asa shalom aleinu v'al kol yoshvei tevel.
Amen. Y'all call your straight table in room. Amen.
Right. Thank you. So if you have a question, as is our preferred custom here, if you can share your question with in the chat with question in all caps, that just helps us to see when folks have questions. And if you have a comment, that's great, and you want to respond, please just, of course, exercise good judgment in holding the affirming sort of space we're here to hold, and practice shmirat hadibur, mindful speech. So if you have a question, just to list it as question with all caps. So Alison, thank you. A lot of wonderful comments already coming in. Thank you. Lester notes here that right? Rabbi Edifeld used the term isness. Sounds like to describe something similar. And I was excited to hear you mention Gil. I'm going to be going on retreat with him, God willing, in October. Really excited
That's awesome.
because he's also a really important teacher for me. So so Lynn is leading us off here. Where does the concept of suchness come from? I guess
For-
that's a great question.
It is. And Josh, there's a hilarious moment happening right now where on the other side of the room, strangely enough, an alarm is going off. So I
Oh,
am going to turn it off. I'll be back in 10 seconds and we'll jump into it. Okay.
okay. Um, um, okay. Well, I'm gonna do my best to. I'll hold down the fort here. There we go. Oh, that was really cute. Okay, that was easy. Thank you. Just sat with it. Okay. So, yeah, if you want to elaborate more on where the concept comes from and just um yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. You know what I didn't mention when I was recounting Cantor Kareth Shapiro's share is she actually explained that that term is often used, that specific English translation, the word suchness is often used in the Buddhist tradition. So it's a borrowing from the Buddhist tradition. And I actually first encountered it in this book written by Gil Fronsdale, a tiny tome called A Monastery Within. Rachel just put that in the chat, which is very short stories that take place in a fictional monastery that illuminate wise, kind ways of working with the mind and heart. And so that was my first encounter with it, suchness. And then I've heard it used mainly in Buddhist spaces. Um, and what I appreciate about it, both in terms of how it lands on the ear and how it lands on the heart, is there for me is this sense of, oh, this is just how things are. This is just how it is. This is, in a sense, comparison is irrelevant. The nature of the rose is in the rose itself, and comparison is something that the mind does in a particular way. And when I talk about comparison in this context, I mean comparison that isn't really so supportive for spiritual development and psychological development and growth as a human being. Thankfully, we have minds that can compare, and we need the ability to compare for a whole host of reasons. And as I was naming earlier, it can be greatly beneficial to look up to someone or feel inspired by someone else's behavior or wow, that person is such a mensch, and I would like to be more like them in certain ways. That's beautiful. That's different than the flavor of comparison that leads us feeling deficient, not enough, as if we're meant to be someone else. And there's a piece of writing by the palliative care worker Bronnie Ware in which she enumerates and illuminates trends in what people say on the edge of death, specifically regrets that they have. And one of the big five that she names is she heard in her meetings as a palliative care worker with many, 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 many people, thousands of people, the refrain, I wish I had just been true to myself and, in a sense, rested in my own suchness. I had this lifetime to do it. And so there's this invitation to, and this is a very practical technique, to notice when that kind of comparison arises in the mind that has a flavor of self-flagellation um, or grooving in this sense of I just am not enough as I am, or I should be wholly different. And just lightly noting, maybe even with some humor or tenderness, oh, compare and despair, and coming back to the breath, coming back to the body, and remembering that what we're learning how to do through practice is have more agency in terms of where we place our attention And maybe those compare and despair thoughts are not what we want to keep grooving in. So we can bow to them, we can honor them, and then shift our attention to a place that's more supportive of the kind of life we want to be living internally, interpersonally, and beyond. So I'm going to stop there, but hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and somebody asked, would we have a Hebrew equivalent for suchness? It's a really interesting question. And I mean, what comes to mind is the idea of mitziyut, just the reality of the the condition, just the reality in which something finds, in which we find ourselves. Mitziyut, comes from the word uh matzah, the net with an aleph, not like matzah, what we eat, but to find. So to find, or that which is found. And that's something that it comes to mind. I'll need to look more. I'm sure in contemporary Hebrew they just call it suchness, with a borrowing. But the word for mindfulness in Hebrew these days is mindfulness. So,
I do actually
but
have a
yeah,
thought on that.
yeah,
On the retreat, one of the teachings that we kept coming back to was that neshama, soul, is also a word for breath.
neshima, yeah,
Yeah.
right,
And that
right.
as I was sitting with my co-teachers, with Rebecca, with Jess, with Kashira, looking out at all of these tender, beautiful human beings in their 20s and 30s who were so sincerely hoping to accept themselves more, grow and develop, uh, fine tune the heart to meet the challenges that the world is currently availing. Um, there was this extraordinarily palpable sense of each person's unique neshama flavor.
Mm,
Each person, you could sense, oh, this person could never have been this person. And thank goodness, because then we wouldn't have had their unique energetic signature contributing to this space. And then simultaneously, each person was in their own way sensing and attuning to the body breathing itself. And over the course of the week, as a teaching team, we kept feeling into, oh, may each person here honor and rejoice in their own neshama, their own
hmm
suchness, the individual flame that is part of the larger flame. And perhaps that's the paradox. We have a beautiful question in the chat about a connection between suchness and paradox. And Jewishly, increasingly, my understanding of the paradox, and I just want to say, in response to that particular question, that a dear friend recently introduced me to the phrase, on the spiritual path, if it isn't a paradox, it probably isn't true. And I love that. And Jewishly, I think part of what teachings around suchness offer us is that we are both, and Baruch Hashem, Baruch Shekhinah, we are both B'Tselem Elohim, made in the divine image, each of us in our singularity, and then, and this is what the mind likes to do. The mind likes to create binaries or dualities. And then each of us is also in our suchness, part of the larger suchness, the oneness, the source of life, the ineffable one, Shekhinah, in Sof, divinity. What is it like to hold these two truths at once? Suchness, it is all, we are all part of the suchness, capital T, capital S.
Yeah, and I think that two other just what that brings to mind is like two other elaborations or teachings on that paradox, right? One is the classic Rabbi Simcha Bunim of Peshizcha, teaching. You have to have two pieces, two pieces of paper, and one in each pocket. Bishvili nivra ha'olam, the world was created for me, and one, and I'm but dust and ashes, genya afar va'efer, in the other, right? And so similar, like that. There's that paradox, and the other is on the teaching of creation b'tzelem Elohim itself, right? Rabbi Yitzhak Greenberg was my teacher, was very um, well known for teaching that out of that stem three truths, right? One is that we're all unique. The second is we're all equal, and the third is that we're all infinitely valuable, right? And so all part of the of the oneness that exists, right? So yes, and those are all paradoxical things that flow from the same source if you take that teaching seriously. There's a bunch more
Beautiful.
questions,
Thank
and
you, Josh.
I can't imagine we're gonna have time for all of these. But we'll see what we can do. Uh um I see Ricky's question here, and I see Pauline's. Uh, this is so Pauline. This is really on the theme. I wanted to actually maybe pick this one up. Is there a distinction between our suchness in the moment and our story over time, our masterpiece in the making? Uh, yeah, that's a terrific question, because those questions about like past and future are very present for Jews and for all of us as people, and like being in the present, as I wrote about this on Friday, the challenge of, being in the suchness of this moment, right? So I wonder how you want to respond to that, Alison.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pauline, for that question. And what's intuitively coming up for me is that is a question to live into. Though I do have some of my own perspectives on it, is there a distinction between suchness in the moment? And anyone who is still on this call, if you're still on this call, just really sensing into how this reverberates through you, noticing your own innermost wisdom around this. Is there a distinction between our suchness in the moment and our story over time, our masterpiece in the making? Just feeling into that. And if you'd like to, you're welcome to put a word or two in the chat just about what you noticed. I think this is an example of an inquiry question that's worth dropping in and seeing what arises. Yeah. Yeah, I see we have some chat poetry coming through. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So may we keep dropping in this question and considering that. And I was wondering, Josh, was there something in particular that arose for you around that question?
It's a wonderful question for Elul and coming up to, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I mean, and I think, if we're honest with ourselves, it's not as though we forget our past, or don't have visions of how we would like to be better and grow.
Yeah.
Um, and that's, again, one of these paradoxes, right? Is that we want to hold that lightly while also being able to be compassionately present with ourselves in the moment as we are now, right? So
Yeah.
how do we practice judgment without being judgmental is one way that I kind of say that. That's an unfortunate thing in the English language, is that judgmentalism is very different than judgment. We want to exercise good judgment, but being
Right.
judgmental is like not a good thing. And so discernment
Yeah.
is a great term. Um, that's where I sort of went with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love what you just offered. And I would just add, as someone who often thinks in visuals, that the image that arises for me with this particular inquiry is that of a tiny baby, like a 3-day-old baby.
Hmm.
And you're sensing into that baby's suchness. you're feeling this baby is their own being, different from their older sibling, different from, you can feel energetically this being's aliveness that has a unique texture and flavor. And that baby, in a sense, is, this is a strange way of putting it, a blank slate. And then life is going to come in, and this baby will learn and grow and make mistakes and practice tshuva, practice returning, and it's a question, do they ever lose that energetic uniqueness? And in my own experience, the answer is no. And so can we hold our own 3-day-old babiness and simultaneously, with compassion, care, maybe even joy, continue to evolve, grow, deepen into who we are moment by moment? And the last, some of you know, I love quotes and I'm a bit of a quote nerd. And there's a teacher, Michael Grady, who offers, every time we think we know someone, whether ourselves or another, what we are now in relationship with is an idea of that person. And so how can we hold ourselves with curiosity and openness, see, oh yes, there's this evolution that is unfolding non-linearly, mysteriously, and also we have that spark, and it's been there since we arrived on this planet. So yeah.
Thank you. That's a wonderful place to stop. Alison, thank you so much for your teaching and your leadership today. Thank you to Rachel for being our tech. Thanks for everybody for your being present and being part of this community, and for your wonderful questions and conversation in the chat. We'll be back tomorrow, same time and channel. And until then, we wish you Tzedchem L'Shalom, farewell. Hope everybody's well. Take care.
Be well, take care.